I've got two of these end exhaust pieces for the Jensen, resonators, I think they call them. Quite a large tube finish coming in from that, I don't know, 1 3/4 inch pipe. So I thought I might, on these as a test, take out the inside bit, which is a perforated tube with fiberglass packed all the way around it as a sound deadener, and see what it actually sounds like. I would like my exhaust to sound louder and deeper as it did on my old Jensen FF, but that was a 383 6.3 litre engine, and it did have stainless steel headers. This insert just appears to be an interference fit. Using a screwdriver, I managed to pull back the perforated metal there, and I can just see the ledge. So if I hook something on there and tap this way, I might be able to pull that whole thing out. And I couldn't manage to hook anything round it and get enough leverage personally to pull it out. So I'm just going to drill through that collar that is an interference fit and then pull it out. So that's the ring as it's come out. And then there's obviously this perforated steel, and then some presumably fiberglass insulation that's there. I was hopeful with some mole grips on I could just pull that inner perforated mesh out, but I think it's obviously attached somehow the other end. At the other end here, I've managed to get an implement just down the side, and I'm just trying to pull away the perforated inner part from this top end, and hopefully then it'll come out. I've now detached it from all around the edge, and it was welded in place, but it's now started to move down the whole length of the exhaust, so I should be able to pull it out. So I didn't need mole grips, it's now just coming out. Just need to remove the fiberglass. Whilst doing this, I found a clamp that I had, which seems to be the correct fit, and that's 44 to 47. Just one of those stainless steel clamps. I want to take this one off and replace it with the other one that I've now modified. This bracket which attaches it there. It's a bracket which attaches this part to the resonator, and then there's a support bracket here to hold the resonator. So if I can get all this off, I'm not just doing the resonator, because what I want to replace it with is this resonator, which I've now taken the insides out of. And if you look there, that's quite a small piece that's sticking out of here. On the resonator that's on the car, this piece here is much longer, so I don't think that pipe's going to fit. Not only that, that pipe is mild steel, whereas this pipe turns out actually to be stainless steel. So I'm just going to put all that in. Comparing the two exhaust pieces, they're not the same. This is much nicer here, and it turns out to be a little bit longer, so I'm not sure where it's going to end up when I've put it on the car, but for test purposes I suppose it won't be a problem, and I can always cut that at a later stage if I don't like it to fit that resonator. With it pushed up as far as I can get it, then that sticks out a lot further than that. Not sure which would be considered correct. The other thing is, with that pushed up reasonably well up that end, I'm just missing that resonator with the bracket. Quite like these clamps because they only fasten from one side, so if you're in a difficult position they work well, and also of course they're quite wide. This exhaust mounting is fine. You've got this rubber, like a big rubber washer on top of that bracket that comes off the body. That big round exhaust is also held at the other end by a similar arrangement, a bracket, and then with this bolt that goes through, which you can access under the back seat. In my case, that rubber washer has ripped through, and also you might be able to see that one of those little bolts is also not properly attached, and there's a bolt at the back there. One of the 4 bolts is actually missing. I think the only way I can get to all that is to drop this part of the exhaust. If you lift the rear seat up, there's a plastic cap in my case, and down through here, that's the top of the bracket. So I shall have a go at removing this. I'm not sure how I'm going to get to all of those screws. You can see the one that's missing out of the 4, and one of them is very loose anyway. This is what it looks like. There's a plate with a rubber mounting, I think, which is part of that unit. In my case, the rubber is split, and I'm also missing one of those bolts. On mine, the issue is with this particular mounting bracket here, with this unit which goes on top there as well. So there's one on this unit and there's one on this unit. My exhaust, as far as this is concerned, is being held just by that one bracket and seems quite stable. I managed to remove the nut just using one of those long reach 9/16 sockets, and then get the washers off. Because my rubber had torn, I was able to actually pull out the inner steel bush that would be bonded to that rubber. How necessary is it to replace that mounting, given the other one that's in position? And this one hasn't been doing anything for quite a while, I suspect. I don't know. I've given it some thought. I still have the rubber. I think what I'm going to do is cheat. I'm going to put a suitable washer down there, which will press on this rubber and at least then give support to the exhaust. So I think that's the route I'm going to go down, and put the nut back on, and then perhaps when the exhaust is completely replaced, do that bush. So I've decided to cheat. I have a large rubber washer. I've just increased the size of the hole, so I'm going to put that on top, get it in. And then I'm going to put a washer on top of that and put the nut on. And that will help suspend the exhaust and take the weight of the exhaust. You can just see that thick washer above the existing rubber washer. Gently bolted into place so it didn't pull the exhaust up too much. I'm reasonably happy that it's taking the weight of the exhaust, and I think we'll leave it at that. Switch it on. What do you want?
3.6.
So we're on
3rd octave, flat frequency weighting and an LE key measurement.
okay. When people are driving down the motorways, normally these cars 2.5.
2,500.
Okay.
As long as you specified what.
That's 2,500 RPM. Okay, can you do that again, please? I can't say I understand all this quite, but I dislike the sound of the modified resonator. It sounded tinny and it was annoying. This side here is the right hand side, and that is the modified exhaust. That was the unmodified exhaust. Having had a quick chat with the gentleman, what he said was this is a more even spread. This has some issues in it, more so than this. It was louder. This spike goes off to 102.7. So these were higher and louder, but because you have these gaps here, as well as these spikes, the sound becomes discordant, was the phrase he used, and a little bit annoying, in the same way that you've got a gap there that drops down. That also makes it a bit more annoying. It's the closer uniformity of this particular one that makes it more pleasing, particularly in this area here. At the end of the day, it was louder, but overall more annoying to listen to. And I'm going to go back to putting the old resonator back on. So I'm going to replace that, put this one back on. Finish there's much nicer. Remove the modified exhaust, this one, and I don't know why or what the manufacturer of this one is, but it's much nicer and longer, so the bracket actually attaches on there. For the hell of it, if I measure this to the tip, it's 23 inches, and that just isn't long enough. So measuring this one, it's 24 inches to where it starts to bellow down. It's just an inch or so longer, but that makes all the difference to the clamp that goes around there. The other thing is this one has a much longer sleeve to go on. So when you put it on, it goes on much further. So with this repositioned, you can see how the bracket fits. And that's all now slotted in nicely. That's it ticking over at 700 RPM. That's it running at 2,500 RPM.